Hello everyone, this is Starry Ari's ASMR. I am Ari, and in this video I will be taking a little bit of time to brush out my sweet dog Edna. We had just gotten back inside from a nice sunny walk, so she was ready to chill out, and I thought that the brushes might make some nice sounds. We use quite a few different brushes and combs on her depending on where she's at in her shedding cycle, but today I will show you 3. The one we probably use most is called an Undercoat Rake. The long rounded pins work well to get all the way through to her undercoat. And this one is called the Equigroomer, and it looks flat, but it actually has all of these tiny grooves that help grab loose fur. We also have this small fine-tooth comb. One side has small, close together tines, and the other side is slightly larger and more spaced out. So we're going to start with the Undercoat Rake. Really like to use this one first just to help loosen up any of that undercoat that's ready to come out, and it can help remove mats and tangles. I think that this is her favorite brush because it kind of mimics like deep pets and scratches that she loves. And even just from a few brushes, that is pretty much already full. Edna is a Siberian Husky and needs regular brushing to keep her coat healthy, but she's also currently losing her thick winter coat to get ready for warmer weather, so she is shedding a lot more than usual. She was a little bit weirded out by my tripod setup, but she loves getting attention, so she ultimately didn't really mind. Luckily, Edna enjoys attention and pets, so she generally enjoys being brushed. She sometimes still wants to sniff the brushes though, just to see what's going on. I can't imagine how difficult it would be to have a dog with a double coat, and if they didn't tolerate being brushed out, so we're definitely lucky with Edna. When she's blowing her coat, we usually do short brushing sessions every day, but when she isn't shedding as much, we might push those to about once a week. And right now, she is losing a lot of fur in her shoulders, and in this area we lovingly call her butt floof, even though it's really more like her back thighs. I think butt floof is more endearing. Is another brush full. And sometimes her scruff right here loses a lot of fur, but I think that we'd kind of worked on this quite a bit last week, and so it's not losing as much right now. So Huskies shed their coat, and it's called blowing their coat, about twice a year, and some Huskies have more regular shedding than others during the whole year, but Edna largely kind of sticks to her twice a year schedule, so right now she's losing all of that really thick, warm, fluffy undercoat that she grew in for the winter. And then in the fall, when she's growing back in her winter coat, it's like she loses all of the fur that she had grown in. It's a bit more coarse, the fur that she gets for her summer coat, feels a little bit more coarse, whereas her winter coat is really, really soft. I do like to do this after she comes back in from a walk, just so that she's kind of nice and calm. She's gotten energy out. She's generally pretty calm inside anyways, but still. She is also due for a groom soon. So once she gets groomed, that really, really helps. I mean, get rid of all of this fur and kind of speed up the shedding process. We usually do one side every day for the short brushing sessions, and we usually like to keep them much shorter than what I'm doing today, because today I'm also not being incredibly efficient. I'm trying to make sure it's slow and calm, or sometimes we just really brush her out pretty vigorously for maybe 5 minutes and then get out a decent amount of fur, and then the next day we try and do the other side. You can tell that she kind of wants to lay down, but she's not quite letting herself get there. I think she was a little bit weirded out. Usually we do this in a different spot too, so she was just kind of suspicious of the whole thing. You can also see all of the fur that is on the rug or living room carpet that she's laying on. I had vacuumed this just the night before, and so she's just shedding so much that it's just full of fur. So I wanted to brush her out and then vacuum again. It would have been kind of pointless to vacuum and then brush her out and get all of this loose fur on the carpet again. But that is the thing about having a dog that sheds. You do unfortunately just have to get used to having fur everywhere sometimes. You can see that she is a little sleepy. Now I'm going to go in with the Equigroomer, so that's this blue comb. You can see all of that loose fur, so it just kind of, you drag it over the top of the coat and it picks up all of the loose furs. This one's really satisfying to use because you can just see the piles of fur coming out, but it can be a bit of a hassle gathering all of the fur up. This one can tug a tiny bit more, so I do try and be pretty gentle with it. Ultimately, because we want her to be comfortable through the process, we don't want her to associate getting brushed with negative things, because ultimately we need her to be brushed very regularly. So I like to use this one after I've already used the Undercoat Rake a bit, because I think that the Undercoat Rake really helps kind of loosen and bring up some of the loose fur, and then this just really helps kind of pull that out. So I'm just giving her a break from that for a little bit, just to give her some nice calming pets. She had some fur on her nose I was trying to get off. And I'm going to go back in with the Equigroomer. We've used this one outside when we were staying at my parents' house one weekend, and we had fur everywhere, all over the yard. But we had heard that birds love to use loose fur like this to build their nests, and I'm not sure exactly how true that is. So we don't usually do this outside because I want to try and gather the fur just in case, but perhaps that would have been fine. She's also a licky girl, so she does like to lick every now and then. I'm gonna go back in with the Undercoat Rake again. She does also sometimes use licks as an avoidant behavior, so sometimes if dogs kind of want you to stop doing something, or they're just kind of interested in like checking something out, they'll give it a lick. So sometimes if we're working on a tough spot in her fur, she might lick the brush to kind of be like, hey, can you chill out? Sometimes when she's getting brushed, she knows that they're kind of like conditional pets. And sometimes she just kind of is like, can you just pet me normally? Then getting her nice shoulders. Down her side. You can see just how sleepy she is. Getting those nice fluffy cheeks. She doesn't tend to shed very much there, but she likes getting brushed there, so I still do it. I do also do her tail because she's got a pretty fluffy tail. She does shed quite a bit out of that too, but it's just out of shot, so you didn't quite see it. I'm going to switch to the little comb just to kind of show you how I would use this. So I noticed that there were some spots here on her shoulder that I could work through a tiny bit. And right along her leg here. This one is helpful if she has a really stubborn spot that the other brushes just aren't quite getting, but she is a little less tolerant of it. And you can already see kind of all of the fur that's gathered on that. It's quite a bit. At the end I'll show you the pile of fur that we have gathered. And then this one you can also push up the fur and then kind of comb down like this. And that just helps to really get to the base of it. But she isn't a huge fan of doing that, so I try and limit that to kind of only necessary situations. Edna is a very tolerant she's also a husky, so ultimately, she has a pretty high tolerance for being handled, but if something crosses her line, she'll just get up and move like she doesn't want to deal with it. So she's generally pretty okay about being groomed, being brushed, because she just lays here and lets it happen. Just brushing out that shoulder area again. Then I'm going to go back in with the Undercoat Rake. Like I was saying, this is kind of her favorite brush. She really likes this brush. And even if it doesn't necessarily always gather as much fur, just because she enjoys it so much, I tend to kind of gravitate towards it. Just getting right under her chin, along her neck there. You can see just how fluffy she is there. There's just so much floof. I am by no means a good or professional groomer, so the way that I'm using these brushes or the process might not be exactly perfect or correct, but it works for us, and ultimately, I want to make sure that she is getting brushed daily, that she's not getting mats in her undercoat, and that she's comfortable and able to handle the brushing sessions. And we're just gonna end off with some nice calming pets. I think that she was kind of getting ready for her afternoon naps, so I wanted to kind of call it at that. I am always a little bit sad to see her winter coat go, just because she is so fluffy when she has her winter coat, but she's gonna feel just so much more comfortable getting all of this fur out, because it's already been getting a little bit warm where we live. And then I wanted to take the brush to the carpet just a tiny bit and see if I could pull up any fur from that before I vacuum later. Just a little interested in what was going on. And there is some of the fur, so not too much, but a little bit. And then here is the pile of fur that we got out from her today. And this was just from the one side during this one session, and I was taking it a little more gentle and slow than I usually would. So the next time we brush her out, we'll try to make sure that we get the other side and her back. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I don't know that there were a ton of sounds from the brushing, but I hope that you at least found it a little relaxing. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.